Hey guys, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today I am so glad to be live streaming with you all once again. I'm ready to take your questions and thoughts on Middle-earth and the Legendarium and all of Tolkien's writings, since most of us are stuck inside. To get us started though, since we are all in some difficult times right now, I wanted to read a hopeful quote from Middle-earth's works. I will do this periodically throughout the live stream, as I think we could all use some hope in our lives right now. Now, before that, I'd like to thank our Valor Tier patrons over on Patreon. Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. You guys really help the channel out by doing what you do, and I really appreciate it. Now for the quote. And real fast, I wanted to thank you all for being here. I set up the live stream a couple hours ago, and I've just been looking at the chat periodically. Hey everyone, yeah, thank you all for joining me. It's good to hear from you all. Thorondor said, wow, that sounds almost exactly like an edited video. Thank you. I hope there are less ums in this. Like, as my live streams go on, as I do more of these, I get hopefully a little bit more confident. So, yeah, okay, so I wanted to read that hopeful quote. But last night I told you of Sauron the Great, the Dark Lord. The rumors that you have heard are true. He has indeed arisen again, and left his hold in Mirkwood, and returned to his ancient fastness in the dark tower of Mordor. That name even you hobbits have heard of, like a shadow on the borders of old stories. Always after a defeat and a respite, the shadow takes another shape and grows again. I wish it need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf. And so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. There you go. Yeah, there's our first hopeful quote of this live stream, the classic one, right? So, yeah, thank you all so much for joining. Oh man, there are a lot of us here. Let me know if the audio needs to be turned up or anything like that. There's a new live stream UI that YouTube has implemented, so if something's off, just let me know and I'll try to fix it. Orange Lightning, sorry to hear that you've been sick with pneumonia. Man, yeah, stay safe, right? I hear that's kind of an underlying condition, so stay safe. I'll probably end up talking about this again sometime during the live stream, but I might as well talk about it now. Alice KH asks, when are you going to show your face? Honestly, that's something I've thought a lot about, but like I've always said, and like I said in the beginning of this channel isn't about me, right? Yoiston isn't my real name. It's my main character in the Lord of the Rings Online, but, right, it's a name that gives me hope, and that's the name of my captain from Rohan, right? And this channel isn't about me, it's about Tolkien's works, right? I'm just a Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, Hobbit fan, right? I'm a Middle-earth fan with a microphone. And it's my honor to bring this community together so we can talk about Lord of the Rings. I don't want this to be about me. And in today's world of the internet and everything like that, it would be rather easy if I did show my face for everyone to figure out my true identity. And again, then I don't want this to be about me, right? So I just want it to be about us as Middle-earth fans and all of that. So, there we go. All right, well, let's jump into some of your questions here. Yeah, I hope you all are doing okay. Cottage Pie, thanks for that. Sam Friedman. Okay, here we go. Before we get started, I also want to apologize for all the names that I'm about to butcher. I do this every single live stream. I butcher everyone's real names, so I'm so sorry if I do and when I do. Sam Friedman asks, do you prefer Aragorn of the books or Viggo's portrayal? This is actually a super interesting question, something I always that I always think about, honestly, when I'm reading both Aragorn in the books and watching him in the movies. I think he is absolutely perfect in both, because Aragorn in the books and Aragorn in the movies is actually quite different. In the books, he's a lot more forthright with who he is and who he wants to be, and, you know, his kingdom and all that kind of stuff. Like, he plans to be king, otherwise the line of Numenor will fail, right? He knows it's all come down to him. Now, in the movies, it's a lot more like either you choose to be king or no one will, right? Like, and he doesn't want it, right? In the books, it's like he kind of wants it, but he also knows that he's bound for the throne. In the movies, he doesn't want it and comes around to needing to be the king everybody wants, right? So I honestly love both of them, but let's see here. Parker Parrish. I don't know if this is true or just a rumor, but is it true that Amazon got rid of their writers, or is this just a silly rumor and just made up? That's a great question. I've been paying really close attention to that because I've been seeing some of those rumors as well, right? Tom Shippey gives me a lot of hope for the Amazon series, and if they get rid of him, I'm going to be very skeptical and very upset because I like Tom Shippey, and right, he's been a very good Tolkien scholar with what he's worked on. But so yeah, I don't think so. I think that's just rumors. So I would be careful about believing any of those unless we get hard evidence. And how you can kind of tell with like fake news versus the real news, especially with, you know, things like the Amazon show where we only get snippets and little tiny things, is if all these different news sources from all around the board are reporting on the same thing and saying the same thing, then it has a lot more validity than if just two random news sources are doing it, because they might just be doing it for views. But I don't know. I've seen like the One Ring talk about things like that. I haven't really seen it anywhere else, right? Check Tolkien Society as well. They're really on top of things. Yeah. Okay, Frederick II of Prussia says, Men of the West, how much would you say Turgon parallels from King Priam in the Iliad? Reading Fall of Gondolin, I see some parallels to the Fall of Troy. I actually am not that versed in the Iliad or Homer's poems. I honestly need to read more of those, so I'm not sure if I can speak much to that, but from what I know of the fall of the city, and a big vice that's been typical in Western literature has been arrogance. Turgon, he was actually warned by by way of Tor from Ulmo, that he should leave his city, that leave Gondolin behind, go to the havens of Sirion, right? And he was like, no, right? I mean, no. He was too arrogant in that moment, and it led to the downfall. So if Troy fell in a similar way, which I'm pretty sure it did, or at least by its leader, right, this kind of vice of arrogance, then I could see there being a lot of parallels there. Raffi, oh, thanks for joining us. Raffi is he's the guy who created the new Men of the West logo a couple months ago. He's from our Patreon. So yeah, thank you for joining us here. I wanted to, let's see. Sorry, we just got some spam in the chat, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to thank our patrons and talk a little bit. So Royan and I, every month, my friend who sometimes joins us for these live streams, we do podcasts every month, and we're doing another podcast later this week. So if you guys want to check those out or check out our new podcast, please join us on Patreon. It's just $1 a month. It really helps out the channel, and you get some exclusive content like the podcasts, or from time to time we'll try to meet up in the Lord of the Rings Online. You also get to talk to me on Discord. So yeah, if you want to join us on Patreon, it would mean a lot. And also, just I wanted to throw this out here as we continue to talk. We need so next week's video is going to be the April Fool's Day video that we do every year. So I'm going to need some topics thrown out. So just feel free as we go along here to recommend that. Jeb Payne, who killed the Balrog in the coolest way? Same question for dragons. Oh man, let me see if I can find this art here. Glorfindel Balrog. So that kind of gives away my answer here, but yeah, there it is. Hold on. I'm going to put this picture up on the live stream, and it's, let me see. It's Glorfindel and the Balrog by Eric Velhagen. Let me pull this up and show you guys what I'm talking about here with how cool this is. So I love how, like, Gandalf and, you know, how they all took down the Balrog, but just look at that. Look at that and tell me that's not awesome. I would say Glorfindel taking down the Balrog is, like, in my opinion, that's the most awesome, right? He's saving all these men, women, and children fleeing Gondolin. It's pretty sweet. So shout out to that artist and that piece of art. I absolutely love that. Let me see. Same for dragons. Who slew and Celegon the Black and Eärendil, right? There's a bunch of awesome art with that as well. With Eärendil in the sky in his boat, right, sailing with the eagles of Manwë against Celegon. So I don't know. For me, that's at least in my mind, those are like the best, like the coolest ones, I suppose. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Yeah, there's a lot of us here on this fine Sunday. Let's see here. Another key thing that I sometimes forget to do in these live streams is actually take a drink of water. That'll keep us going longer. Let's see. Frederick II of Prussia says, "Who is the worst of the sons of Fëanor?" I can think of who the best is. I'd say Maglor's the best. Who's the worst? Oh, man. Is it... I always get Celegorm and Curufin mixed up. Let me see here. Because they're really close together. I think... They captured Lúthien. Yeah, okay. Celegorm's my least favorite. Or Celegorm is at least the worst of the sons of Fëanor because he pretty much tried to force Lúthien into marrying him and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, this guy is terrible. This guy's awful. Andrew Steffens says, topic suggestion. Led Zeppelin songs connected to Lord of the Rings. That would be awesome. I want to make a video about Led Zeppelin and how a lot of their songs do connect to Lord of the Rings. Specifically, I grew up with Led Zeppelin a lot, and every time they mentioned anything Lord of the Rings, I absolutely loved it. So, let's see. GV Santa asks, have you ever wondered what happened to Radagast the Brown during and after the events of The Lord of the Rings? Yeah, actually, because Gandalf sailed away, Saruman was dead, and, the Blue Wizards, we have no idea. I have a feeling he just kind of faded and became maybe a spirit of Earth, or maybe eventually, as his physical, Hror, I think, is the body, the physical manifestation. As that kind of faded away, his spirit maybe went back to Yavanna, maybe it stayed on Earth. I'm not sure. Let's see, Galf44N, thank you so much for the super chat. It means a lot. Coolest characters for him are Torgon, Glorfindel, and Thingol and Melion. Yeah, I love those characters. I mean, if I were... it's so hard to choose, like, my top 3 favorite characters from all the Legendarium. I mean, my number 1 would be Aragorn, right? He always inspires me, right? Aragorn. Then I would... Okay, so maybe it's a little easier than I thought. So, from all the Legendarium, my top 3 favorite characters. Yeah, Aragorn, and then in second place, I'd say Sam Gamgee. Third place is where it gets really tough, though, because I love Finrod Felagund. I absolutely love that character. But I also love Bilbo, and, oh man, that's where it gets really difficult, right? I love Elendil. I'd probably say Finrod, at least right now. I'm sure it changes depending on, like, what I'm reading and when I'm reading it, but yeah. Oh, Raffi, thanks for signing up as a member. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, the join membership thing that they added on YouTube, I have it, right? And it supports the channel, which I really appreciate, but it allows you to do some special emoji stuff on our super chat, or on our live streams and under my videos. So if you wanted to check that out, that'd be cool. Yeah, and I definitely appreciate it. So Keith MCB asks, Yoyston, have you ever actually met Carl from Geek Zone? No, but I've talked with him so many times, right? We're pretty good friends here, and big shout out to Geek Zone. If you guys want to check out more Lord of the Rings channels and all of that, please check out our Great Alliance, like our channels, featured channels spot. I have so many Tolkien channel friends that are posted there, so please check them out. And yeah, especially Geek Zone. So I've never met Carl. He and I actually live, like, I think all the way across the world from each other, but maybe one day. That'd be cool. Hennessy, thanks for joining us as a free person of Arda. Thanks for joining the community. Let's see here. Paul A asks, what are your favorite... Oh, yeah, it's good to see you, Paul A. What are your favorite and least favorite parts of Tolkien's magic system? So before I get into that, thanks for the super chat, Mike Becker. I would say, so I love how the magic system is kind of connected spiritually to characters, right? So you have these high elves that saw the light of the two trees of Valinor, and they have a lot more magic than your typical, like, mortal man, right? It's kind of almost in a tiered system, right? So you have you have Iluvatar, who has, like, the most magic, right? He can control everything. Then the Valar, the powers of the West, the powers of the world. And they kind of are almost like elemental, right? You have Aule, who's like fire and stone. You have Yavanna, who's like trees and flowers and gardens. You have, Manwë, who's like wind. Ulmo, who's water, right? I love that. And as you get further down, you have Maiar, right? Like the wizards and stuff who are kind of a little bit elemental, depending on like who they served. And right, Sauron served Aule and then Melkor. Thus, he was both a great craftsman and evil and very powerful, right? So I love that. I love how it's just kind of almost a connected spiritual system. Now, the thing that kind of... I'm not sure if I say I don't like it. It's just kind of weird for me when I'm reading, right? So if you watched my last theory, right, with what if the Rohirrim did not save Gondor, you have Gandalf getting slain by the Witch King at the beginning of that theory. Now, a lot of people voiced their concern about that. They're like, I don't know if that would have happened. See, that's kind of the issue, right? Is like, they are absolutely right to say that. I don't know if Gandalf... Because if it's just on their base power systems, you have Gandalf, who is a Maya, who is of the race of the Valar, the Ainur, right? Who helped create the world, just like Sauron, right? Or at least their Ainur, right? So if you have that, oh yeah, the Witch King would have gotten destroyed by Gandalf, because at his base, he was just a man who was corrupted. And Gandalf is, like, pretty much an angel, right? But at the same time, I'm like, how much was he allowed to use? How much of his power could he actually use as Gandalf the White? Because he's an old man in his form in Middle-earth, but that does not mean... He's not actually an old man. That's just the form he took. So I'm like, how much power is he allowed to use? How much is he not allowed to use? I don't know. Yeah, Phil Chadwick says systems are for things like D&D. Tolkien was more like a real world, like George R. R. Martin writes in A Song of Ice and Fire. I wouldn't... I mean, to some degree, I'd say Tolkien was real world. I would say he's more almost biblical, almost like religious powers, right? Because you have those moments, I won't get into too much of it, but I know since Tolkien was a devout Catholic, you have these stories, right? Like the Red Sea being parted. It's like, how did that happen, right? What's the magic in that, right? So it's kind of like the same is how I equate it, right? How did Lúthien topple Tol and Gowerhoth, the Isle of Werewolves? How did she just topple that place? I have no idea. It's the kind of same thing. It's just like, then they did this. But it's not like a mana power system like you might have in D&D or Skyrim or something like that, so... Yeah, that's a great question. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I want to kind of have this theme of hope with this live stream, since many of us are stuck indoors and all of that. So I wanted to read another hopeful quote that I gathered before the live stream. "Not even to see fair Lothlorien," said Haldir. "The world is indeed full of peril, And in it there are many dark places, but still there is much that is fair. And though in all lands love is now mingled with grief, it grows perhaps the greater. Some there are among us who sing that the shadow will draw back, and peace shall come again. Just wanted to read that, right? And as we, so that was from The Fellowship of the Ring, Lothlorien. The first one was The Fellowship of the Ring, Shadows of the Past. That was all we have to decide is what to do with the time that it's given us. So, Royan Crowshield, that's our boy. I mentioned him earlier. Thanks for joining us, man. And thanks for the super chat. Stream is great so far. See you for the podcast soon. Thanks, man. And that's a great reminder. So yeah, we're going to be shooting our podcast on Patreon later this week. If you guys wanted to join us there, let us know what topics you'd like Royan and I to discuss. It's almost like we do this live stream kind of thing, right? Where it's just freestyle talking. We pretty much do that and then talk about like the Amazon news and all of that. We do that pretty much once a month over on Patreon. My friend Royan and I. So cool. Yeah, if you guys want to join us there, it really helps out the channel. Paul A says, please read Sam's interaction with the ring and how he refuses a Middle-earth garden. Oh, that was when he... Let me see if I can pull that up. That was when Sam got the ring after he thought Frodo was dead. I've got the Return of the King pulled up here in a PDF. Tower of Cirith Ungol. He halted and sat down. Let's see. Sorry, yeah, he's about to put on the ring here. Okay. Hard and deep. In the dreadful light. Huh. His thought turned to the ring, but there was no comfort there, only dread and danger. Sorry. I'm trying to find that here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Already the ring tempted him, gnawing at his will and reason. Wild fantasies arose in his mind, and he saw Samwise the strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, and armies flocking to his call as he marched to the overthrow of Barad-dûr. And then all the clouds rolled away, and the white sun shone, and at his command the Vale of Gorgoroth became a garden of flowers and trees, and brought forth fruit. He had only to put on the ring and claim it for his own, and all this could be. In that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped him most to hold him firm, but also deep down in him lived, still unconquered, his plain hobbit sense. He knew in the core of his heart that he was not large enough to bear such a burden, even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him. The one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due, not a garden swollen to a realm. His own hands to use, not the hands of others to command. Yeah, I forgot about that moment, honestly. I love that. Galf44N, thanks for the super chat again. Also kind of a strange question, but what do you think would happen if Lúthien used the One Ring? Odd one, but just speculation. Oh man, I think... So in a lot of ways, Galadriel, she learned a lot from Melian, Lúthien's mother, right? So I think in a lot of ways, if Lúthien... like forgetting the timeline for a second, if Lúthien and the One Ring existed at the same time, if she got the One Ring, I assume it would be kind of like Galadriel. You would have a queen, fair and beautiful, but dark, right? And I would say Lúthien probably would she would pretty much destroy Sauron with the One Ring, I think, because she's already half Maya, but then also half elf. And she's already very powerful. I mean, if she defeated him in Beleriand during the First Age, as she did with Huan, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say she would destroy and, like she would conquer all of Middle-earth and be a fair and dark queen, so... Let's see here. Aaron Strever asks, would Fëanor still do the things he did even if Morgoth was still imprisoned? I think that he would just take it for longer. Let me see. Still imprisoned. Oh, that it would just take longer. Actually, that's why I want to make that theory. What if Morgoth stayed imprisoned? I guess since we're talking about whoops, the First Age here. Gotta get our boy as per usual. If we so if Melkor was imprisoned, right, and Tulkas was the one, like, he was very vital in helping to imprison him and all that stuff. So if Morgoth stayed imprisoned, this is definitely a theory I want to make. I think Fëanor really wouldn't have had a problem. Like, he would have just been a brat, right? Like normal. he drew his sword on his brother, Fingolfin, and all that stuff. Like, that would have still been the same, I think. But he, at the end of the day, he would have just stayed in Valinor. He would have not had a reason to leave, right? Because his father was still alive, the two trees were still alive, or would have been still alive. The Silmarils would not have been taken. And I think he would have just stayed there. However, what would have happened is Sauron, who is still just hanging out in Angband, if Melkor was never released from imprisonment, he would rise a lot earlier. And he would rise, like, a lot earlier than he does versus, like, the Second Age, where he's the primary Dark Lord. So yeah, no, we talk about Tulkas every live stream, so I was just going to jump ahead of it. Like, yeah, dude, that's that's our boy, man. Orange Lightning. Tulkas exists. Melkor. Why do I hear boss music? What are all these health potions doing around me? Yeah, when the game auto-saves, there are health potions around you, and then you hear Tulkas start laughing. Uh-oh. EJ Sobitsky? I'm so sorry. What would have happened to Aragorn had Arwen left Middle-earth with the other elves? I think he still would have become king and stuff, but he would have been a lot more, I think, depressed and everything. Assuming she would have returned the Ring of Barahir to him, because they pretty much, in the writing, they pretty much used the Ring of Barahir as an engagement ring. So during the Lord of the Rings, Aragorn doesn't actually have the Ring of Barahir, to my knowledge, because he gave that to Arwen in Ciaran Amroth in like 2980 of the Third Age, something like that. But he probably would have gotten that back and passed it along his descendants, because I think he would have gotten married to, like, a woman of Gondor. Maybe he would have even gotten married to Éowyn, actually. So, and kind of connected Rohan to Gondor and Arnor. So, kind of connected these three kingdoms of men. So, yeah, that's a great question. Gabriella Syme asks, how old is Galadriel? So, we have to take into account, I've got to make a video on this because I don't quite understand it myself. Valian years, which are the years before the sun and the moon. So, like, the years of the trees and the years of the lamps, those were counted differently. Apparently, years were a lot longer, I think. Yeah, so you have, in the years of the trees, you have like 1,500 something years, something like that. But actually, in our time, that would have been something more like, that would have been thousands of years. Again, I'm not quite sure. I have to do some research on that. But so if we take that into account, Galadriel's somewhere, I think, I'll look it up on Tolkien Gateway. Shout out to Tolkien Gateway, because that's such a great guide and helpful for pretty much all my videos. If you ever have a question, it's a good resource. So on Tolkien Gateway, it says she's about... Oh, they don't have an age for her. Well, she was born 1362 of the years of the trees. Again, depending on how the Valian years were counted, she would have been thousands, if not tens of thousands of years old. Definitely thousands, because even in normal time, the Third Age was 3,000 years. The Second Age was like 3,000, obviously give or take some 100 years. But the First Age was 500, so she's at least a couple thousand years old. Let's see here. Thanks for the super chat again, Gal44N. One more. How strong is Elrond in your mind? And do you think if he would... And what if he used the One Ring? G4 for less fame. Thanks, G4. So let's see. Elrond, in my mind... I would say he's not as powerful as Galadriel. But not as powerful as Círdan, the Shipwright. But just beneath them, I think. So he's half-elven, but he chose to be an elf. His parents are Eärendil and Elwing. He comes from really royal, there we go. Comes from really royal lineages, and from both elves and men. So I would say he was very powerful, but again, probably not as... I'd say he's more powerful than Celeborn. Not as powerful as Galadriel, not as powerful as Círdan, but besides the two of them, I think, and besides Glorfindel. But he also has a Ring of Power. So it's hard to place him in a category, but I think he's not the most powerful elf in Middle-earth during the Third Age, but definitely one of them. I would say, but in comparison to the elves of the Elder Days, like Finrod or Lúthien or Fingolfin, he doesn't even compare, I think. But still one of the most powerful people in the age of the Third Age. And if he used the ring, I think that's pretty much like a magnifier. He would have been the most powerful in the Third Age. Caesar E. Lopez asks, isn't Círdan older than Galadriel? Yep. Yeah, he was one of the first elves to awaken in Cuivianen. The pronunciation of that always gets me. Cuivianen. He was one of the first elves to awaken, I believe. So, there you go. Yeah, yeah, he's older. Paul A says, yeah, given that Círdan is one of the only elves who grows a beard, I'd say, yeah. Yeah, he's there are like cycles, again, another video that I have to make. There are 3 cycles, I believe, of elven ages. And I think it's in the 3rd cycle when you actually can start growing facial hair as an elf. Círdan is one of the only elves that we hear in the Legendarium that's actually in that 3rd cycle of elven life. Radek Himmer says, cheers, man. Great channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you guys all for joining us here. I wanted to shout out again my Valar tier patrons, Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. You guys make this all possible, and I really appreciate it. Nips Wellmacked says, but no one can really use the One Ring but Sauron. It's a part of him and therefore corrupts others and turns them into a beacon to find it for his people. I would say yes and no there. He's really the only one who can use it to its full capability. However, I think there are people in Middle-earth like Galadriel and Gandalf, Elrond, Círdan, Glorfindel. That's probably it. Radagast, Saruman, that could overthrow Sauron with his ring, but in his place, at least this is what the writings kind of point towards. In his place, they would rise as a new Dark Lord, because it always ends in tyranny. Is kind of I think the point of the ring is, even if you're powerful enough to got a nice little N there. If you're powerful enough to overthrow Sauron, it still doesn't mean you're not going to be just like him. So again, yes and no. That's yeah. Ooh, Hector Manuel Arias Ramirez. I'm so sorry. I probably just destroyed your name. I'm sorry. Who's stronger between Galadriel and Gandalf the White? Again, it's tough because if we're going to kind of just take them to their base levels, Galadriel is one of the Noldor. She's the daughter of Finarfin. Gandalf is a Maya. I'd just say Gandalf because he's Elrond, the Maya. He is of the race of the Valar, the Ainur. So I would say Gandalf. But again, Gandalf the White. It's like, again, how much power is Gandalf actually like allowed to use? How much power is Galadriel allowed to use? From what we see, Galadriel topples Dol Guldur with her ring. So I would actually say, in practicality, in what we see them do, Galadriel is stronger than Gandalf the White. But again, it's hard for me to say that because it's like Gandalf is super strong. Phil Chadwick says, there is no stronger than. That's a limited philosophy. It's like asking what's stronger, a weightlifter or a powerlifter. Exactly. I completely agree with that. Even if I do make videos on like who would win in a fight or whatever. No, that's exactly right, because it's just like, it's so hard to compare the two, especially with what powers they were allowed to use and what powers they weren't allowed to use, and what powers the Valar kind of restricted, or Ilúvatar restricted on them versus what they were allowed to do. That's why it's like kind of interesting that the fight between Durin's Bane and Gandalf happens off screen or off page, because if he was allowed to use his full power as a Maya against the Balrog, which was also a Maya, that would have been crazy. That'd have been crazy. Armand Rampersad asks, what if Tom Bombadil got the ring? He would have lost it. They talk about that at the Council of Elrond. It's like, why don't we just send the ring to him? It's like, oh, he doesn't care enough. He just would have lost it somewhere. So probably the whole Middle Earth would have fallen, and it just would have been under some leaf in the old forest, just sitting there, like this powerful thing just kind of thrown to the wayside. So, Nips Walmacked, thank you so much for the super chat. It means a lot. Thank you for the info in the ring. Yeah, no problem. And again, I always try to say this, take what I say with especially the opinionated things with a grain of salt, because I could be wrong, right? There are scholars out there that know more about Tolkien's works than I do. So this is just, this is kind of my thoughts on it, all of that. So Hennessy asks, how many Balrogs actually existed, and how many saved Morgoth when Ungoliant was torturing him? Originally, I think Tolkien, it's like in the Unfinished Tales or one of the History of Middle-earth books. Originally, I think the number of Balrogs was 7, is what he was originally planning. One of them was Gothmog, one of them Durin's Bane, and then 5 others. But I think there were actually way more in the... It's hard to say. It's hard to say what he actually ended up going with in his mind. I think there were more in the finished Legendarium, but it's hard to say. Mike Becker, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Sam Popkin asks, are you anxious the Amazon series isn't going to live up to the Silmarillion? No, I mean, well, so if they're doing Second Age, that's a lot of the second part of the Silmarillion, like the Numenor, of the Rings, and the Third Age, right? That's like the kind of latter part of the Silmarillion. If they can just do that kind of right, and it's also the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, if they can just do that kind of right, like, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't even know if we have the technology to completely do the Silmarillion, like the First Age, right? So, but they're not even touching the First Age, so I'm completely fine with that. So I think they'll do great, but they have to keep the scholars that they have on board, right? They have to keep the community happy, because if they implement all this stuff, I mean, just look at how the fans reacted to Tariel, right? People, the love story bothered me, but her as a character is kind of like, okay, that's, she didn't really bother me that much as a character, but the love story does bother me because it takes away from Keely's loyalty to Thorin in the Hobbit movies. But look at how many people don't like Tariel, right? Like, there's like whole pages, I think, on like Facebook, like whole meme pages that are just anti-Tariel. So, oh yeah. Thorondor, what if Bill the Pony was a Maya sent to keep Sam in the right timeline? I love that. I mean, I'm reading through the Fellowship of the Ring again, and it's like, they're talking about how they're up on the Redhorn Pass, and everybody's cold, but then Bill's just like, He's like the Tolkas of the group, you know. He's taking all the snow and he's just handling it. Because maybe he is a Maya. I love that guy. I love that pony. Cottage Pie says, "What do you know of the cats of Queen Berúthiel?" I actually made a video on that a couple of years ago for Halloween, Halloween 2018, I believe. So if you wanted to check that out, it's quite creepy. She used them as like spies in Gondor, all that stuff. Before they were just like, "All right, we've had enough. Go on a ship. You're out of here. You're out of here." Ibrahim Saib asks, after the destruction of the One Ring, where did the spirit of Sauron go? If you read like very closely to the text, I believe he went to join Melkor, right? So I think he went to the Void, but there is some conjecture there. People say that maybe his spirit just stayed in Middle Earth and like flew around and stuff, because who was it that cast him into the Void? But they also say that I think the text, at least somewhere, says he joined Melkor in the Void, his master. So that's what I would say. He's beyond the walls of night with Morgoth, only to return if Dagor Daggerath ever actually happened. Nerd of the Rings. So this is Nerd of the Rings. He's another channel that I was kind of talking about before, another Tolkien channel. Thanks for the super chat, man. And just great stuff, man. Keep it up. I appreciate you. What is your number one thing you prefer, the book version over film? I've always preferred the version of Gandalf versus the Witch King in the books. Oh, that's a great question. Well, so there probably, I'm sure there are a couple things. One is the Council of Elrond. In the book, it is long. And I've heard that some people like might skip it or whatever. From a Michael Drought lecture, he was talking about how some people would skip it. Don't skip the Council of Elrond, because that's really the first time in the whole book. If you're new to the Lord of the Rings, I think that's like the first time everything kind of makes sense and comes together. But even though it's long, even though it's very exposition-y, I absolutely love the Council of Elrond, and I'm willing to spend so much time there, right? Because you have so many things coming together, right? This is where I feel like it really actually, The Lord of the Rings feels like a sequel in a lot of ways to The Hobbit, because they kind of connect, oh, what's the Lonely Mountain been up to? What's Bilbo been up to? Bilbo saying, all right, I guess I started this. Here we go. I'm going to finish it. I'll take the ring to Mordor. And then Gandalf's like, it's okay. Just write your book. Just sit down. It's fine. It's not your battle, you know? I love that. I'll keep thinking about that. We'll see if I can kind of come up with more. I mean, Faramir. I absolutely love Faramir in the books. Speaking of which, I'm going to read a Faramir quote, as today's theme is kind of, again, about hope. Before I do that, thanks to ComicNut64 for the super chat. I appreciate that. Yoistin, great work, and have you ever played D&D? I haven't, but I was actually talking to my friends a couple weeks ago. I'm like, we have to do this. I really want to play D&D. It sounds like so much fun. Okay, but here's the quote from Faramir. But fear no more. I would not take this thing, if it lay by the highway. Not were Minas Tirith falling in ruin, and I alone could save her. So, using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. No, I do not wish for such triumphs. Frodo, son of Drogo. Triumphs, Frodo, son of Drogo. Neither did the council, said Frodo. Nor do I. I would have nothing to do with such matters. For myself, said Faramir, I would see the white tree in flower again, in the courts of the kings, and the silver crown return, and Minas Tirith in peace, Minas Honor again as of old, full of light, high and fair, beautiful as a queen among other queens, not a mistress of many slaves. Nay, not even a kind mistress of willing slaves. War must be, while we defend our lives against a destroyer who would devour all. But I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend, the city of the men of Númenor, and I would have her loved for her memory, her ancientry, her beauty, and her present wisdom, not feared, save as men may fear the dignity of a man. Old and wise. That's from The Two Towers, The Window on the West. G4, thank you so much again for the super chat. I appreciate it. Last one for me, I promise. How goes your travels in Lotro? Do you like the Minas Morgul expansion? I like it a lot. Now I'm going for a drink or two, and I raise the mug for you, my friend. Right back at you. Cheers, my friend. Thank you so much for your support and everything here. Really appreciate it. I would say, yeah, I love Lotro. I was just playing the Spring Festival that just started before the live stream, actually. And I love it. I love the Lord of the Rings Online, right? Again, there are really a couple things I credit with me wanting to do this channel in the first place, me getting here. One of them is the Lord of the Rings Online. The others are the Peter Jackson films, and then obviously Tolkien's works themselves. But no, I love, and Battle for Middle Earth, things like that. But I love the Lord of the Rings Online, especially, right? And it goes well. I mean, I've maxed out Yoiston at level 130, and I'm excited to see what updates come this year and all of that. Minas Morgul, I really love that expansion. It's one of my favorites, I would say, especially with the Second Age stuff. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the Second Age. They also make some interesting calls in terms of lore, right, that are really give and take. You either would love it or you're not really going to like it at all. I've kind of come to reconcile some of the things that I wasn't so sure about in terms of the lore stuff, but I really love it overall. The stuff with Mordrith or Gothmog or Earner, all that stuff's really good. So, let me take a drink real fast. Hector Manuel Arias Ramirez says, do you think we will see Gil-galad in the new Amazon series? I really hope so. I don't think they could do the Second Age right without him. He was one of the biggest opponents of Sauron right next to Elendil at the end of the Age, right? And even throughout the Age, he was skeptical of Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. So, yeah, we definitely have to see him. Tom CH says, I actually dislike how in the movies Faramir is responsible for Gollum turning bad again, because in the books he never really changed his mind like the movies. He's even kind of in some ways presented a little bit cruelly in the movies, or at least in the Two Towers, especially how he deals with Gollum. It's like, man, he's kind of a cruel man, right? Like kind of throwing Gollum around, and again, I get what they were going for with Faramir. Trying to bridge the gap between Boromir and Denethor in the movies, kind of have this forsaken child thing going on, but this man rising up out of fear and despair. And I get it, but I feel like if they had followed the books a little bit more closely with that character, it would have worked just as well, if not even better. So, James Fry, I would love to know more about the Grey Company. Me too. So I made that Rangers video, Rangers of Middle Earth, like a month ago, 2 months ago, and really I think that's all we've got on it, right? The only named characters of the Grey Company that we have are Eladon and Elrohir, sons of Elrond, and Halbarad. Other than that, we have no idea. That's another thing I love about the Lord of the Rings Online, is we have more connection with. We have more of that kind of story with the Grey Company. Kyle Jordan Gaming says, bruh, the scene of Faramir charging to his death while Pippin was singing The Fieldsman. Yeah, you're right. Okay, they did that scene. Absolutely right. I will say that. I love the song too. It's very good. Gasper Pretnar says, is it worth buying the illustrated Silmarillion? Absolutely. Alan Lee? Yeah, if there are any with Alan Lee, Ted Nasmith, these kind of guys, they're incredible. I would absolutely get that. Because it really helps is because we have no film adaptation, so we have no really, besides art, we have no physical representation of what Morgoth would have looked like, what Sauron of the First Age, or Lúthien, or so it's good at getting that art in, especially with Silmarillion, just so you can have that physical, how people interpret them physically in your mind as you're reading. and like these places that sank beneath the ocean, right? Like we have no clue what they looked like besides the artwork, so, and the maps. Let's see. Just scrolling through the chat here. Pablo Quintana asks, why did the Dúnedain protect the Shire even before Gandalf found out about the One Ring? I think he suspected that Bilbo had the One Ring, or at least a ring of really significant power. But it wasn't even about that, I think, like, necessarily. 100 years or so before the War of the Ring, you have the Fell Winter, where all these hobbits kind of bound together. Gandalf saw how desperate things were and dire they were, right? You have, I think that was when wolves invaded the Shire as well, right? But you have all these hobbits come together and be heroes, and he, I think, wanted to also just protect these people. So, yeah, I think there's more to it. He also just wanted to protect Bilbo, knew that the Bagginses were very important for the outside world as well, and again, protect the ring. Even if it wasn't the One Ring, he was like, we got to protect that, I think. Gabriella Syme, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day. Armand Rampersad asks, what kingdoms of men do you honestly prefer? It depends on what we talk about, right? So if we're talking about time-wise, right, the Second Age, then obviously, I love Numenor. If we're talking about the Return of the King and that kind of part of the story, right, love Gondor, but there's always been a soft spot in my heart for Rohan and Arnor. Those two kingdoms of men especially, right? With Rohan, you have these super epic moments, and they're going to fight against all odds and just hope to see the dawn. Speaking of which, I could read a quote from that has to do with Rohan, but yeah, and then Arnor, because as much as I can learn about that place, right, the Rangers and all that, I just absolutely love those two places. But my love for Gondor and Numenor also cannot be understated. Even some of the places of the First Age, Dor Loman, right, thinking about that place, how it got taken over by Easterlings, Dorthonion. There were some really cool places in the First Age. So I wanted to actually read a hopeful quote, continuing our theme of hope with this live stream, as it is as this came from the Return of the King. But I'm going to take a drink first. Stern now was Eomer's mood, and his mind clear again. He let blow the horns to rally all men to his banner that could come thither, for he thought to make a great shield wall at the last, and stand, and fight there on foot till all fell, and do deeds of song on the fields of Pelennor, though no man should be left in the west to remember the last king of the Mark. So he rode to a green hillock, and there set his banner, and the white horse ran rippling in the wind. Out of doubt, out of dark to the day's rising I came, singing in the sun, sword unsheathing. To hope's end I rode, and to heart's breaking. Now for wrath, now for ruin and a red nightfall. These staves he spoke. Staves? Staves he spoke, yet he laughed as he said them. For once more lust of battle was on him, and he was still unscathed, and he was young, and he was king, the lord of a fell people. And lo, even as he laughed at despair, he looked out again on the black ships, and he lifted up his sword to defy them. And then wonder took him, and a great joy, and he cast his sword up in the sunlight, and sang as he caught it, and all eyes followed his gaze. And behold, upon the foremost ship a great standard broke, and the wind displayed it as she turned towards the Harland. There flowered a white tree, and that was for Gondor, but 7 stars were about it, and a high crown above it, the signs of Elendil that no lord had borne for years beyond count. And the stars flamed in the sunlight, for they were wrought of gems by Arwen, daughter of Elrond, and the crown was bright in the morning, for it was wrought of mithril and gold. Thus came Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elisar, Isildur's heir out of the paths of the dead, borne upon a wind from the sea to the kingdom of Gondor. And the mirth of the Rohirrim was a torrent of laughter and a flashing of swords, and the joy and wonder of the city was a music of trumpets and a ringing of bells. But the hosts of Mordor were seized with bewilderment, and a great wizardry it seemed to them that their own ships should be filled with their foes, and a black dread fell on them, knowing that the tides of fate had turned against them, and their doom was at hand. I love that. And again, it shows both why I love, like, you have really all three kingdoms of men here. Even four if you want to count Númenor. But you have Rohan with Éomer at the beginning. You have Gondor as Aragorn comes up with the standard of the White Tree, but you also have a bit of Arnor as it came from the north and the sign of Elendil. And then you have Númenor as Gondor, Arnor are both descended from. Right? I absolutely love it. So... Jarl Balgriff, thanks for joining us. The Lord of the Rings fandom is surprisingly not toxic. It really isn't. I'm biased, but it's really one of the best communities and fandoms, right, ever. Because there's so much joy and culture and everything in it. The only thing that sometimes I'll see, or one of the only things, is how people talk about pronunciations. And again, I'm also biased because people talk a lot about my pronunciations, which I do try to work on, but people get kind of snooty about that sometimes. Lyle L., thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Oakham, oh my gosh. Okami Jigoku 13. So, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for the super chat. Hey Yoyston, who's your favorite side character in the Legendarium? Oh man, what a great question. Side character. I suppose Finrod, right? Because if you think about the tale of Beren and Lúthien, he is rather a side character. He doesn't last long in the tale. And even before that, there's not a ton of focus on him, right? He created Nargothrond and all that, but I'd say Finrod Felagund. Yep. Yeah, Phil Chadwick says, I'm a bit hot on pronunciations, but names get pronounced differently in the real world too. Right, and that's exactly it, is language is a very human conception. It can be a very beautiful one, as Tolkien shows us, but it's a very human conception, which means it can be very, very wrong. And it can be very wrong depending on how you see it, but it's also very opinionated because there are different dialects, different languages, different accents, right? So, yeah, I mean... Even in the Legendarium, how you might pronounce a Noldoran word would be different from how a Sindar would pronounce that same word. Or a Sinda would pronounce that same word. Or even how a Hobbit would pronounce a Dwarven word that came from a root from an Elvish word. Right? Like, these are such crazy things, you know? Because Finrod, that's an Elvish word. That's it's either Noldoran or Sindarin. Finrod, but then Felagund is I think a mixture of Sindarin and Khazad-dûl, or it's completely Khazad-dûl because it was given to him by the dwarves. So Orange Lightning, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. True, to be completely honest, over the last couple of years, I can honestly say that the Tolkien fandom is the sweetest fandom I've ever been a part of. It really is, right? Because again, everybody's so kind, intelligent, caring, charismatic, right? Like, so many virtuous qualities. Because, yeah, as we all talk to each other about Tolkien's works, you know, in a lot of ways, what we discuss, especially with the Silmarillion, is very niche. It's very, very kind of stowed away in the greater world of fiction. But we can all have a very civilized conversation about all these random people that you have to read a bunch about, right? And it's very cool, very cool. Infernus Frost Roblox says your videos are the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thorondor says charismatic. You're joking, right? No, I mean, I don't know. You look at it like just look at like some of the great scholars of Tolkien's works. They're very, very fluent in how they command language and how they command knowledge and how they speak to others, right? I don't know. It's charismatic in my opinion, but Radek Himmer, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Does our Lord and Savior J.R.R. Tolkien mention anywhere anything about the redemption of Sauron/Melkor or any of those evils, or it all ends up in the big battle and that's it? Cheers. Thank you so much. That's a great question. Elrond says, I think it's the Council of Elrond, that he says nothing was born evil. Nothing started evil in the first place. So they started, which means redemption theoretically would be possible, but not for that. Like, in the Legendarium, nothing is really mentioned. I think it's just they're evil and they're cast out. I don't believe they're ever really redeemed, even on a metaphysical level, even on like a very Ainu Lindale kind of level. Caesar E. Lopez EL, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Why is it that the dwarves fade away in the Fourth Age when their populations always grow during times of peace and trade, especially with the settlements in the Blue Mountains, Iron Hills, Lonely Mountain? I think the idea there is that they delve so deep that eventually they fade away from humankind. Doesn't mean that they die. I think. How I interpret it is that they start digging so deep and making vast cities underground that they really disappear from us who live above ground, right? They disappear, and it's kind of similar with the hobbits, how I think they are so stealthy and like, you know, the smaller folk that they might still exist today, but they kind of went into hiding. They kind of just, we just can't find them. We can't see them. So it's not that they all died. So that's how I interpret it, at least. Thorondor, wait, so we could still find dwarves if we dig enough? Maybe. Maybe, but we could also find a Balrog, so... Yeah, Paul A., imagine the dwarves digging up another Balrog. It's totally... Maybe that's what happened, is maybe they ended up delving too deep and they awoke dragons and Balrogs and things, but the dragons wiped them out, never came above land, and we never knew about it. Like that's a possible explanation, I suppose. DI, thank you so much. It says my voice is perfect. I'm starting to lose it. I'm trying to keep it hydrated and everything, but thank you so much. Phil Chadwick says, I think they did die out. My interpretation, also it is mentioned that the male dwarves have less and less interest in women. It's definitely possible. They could have totally faded out from existence. But it's always nice to feel that, like, I think they would go and help Aule, right? So after even if all the dwarves did die, they went to Aule the Smith, their great father, and would help him create the next world, right? So that's reassuring, you know? I believe at least that they would help him create the next world. I know that they serve, I think they go to his halls after death, I'm sure. Snow Warning says, it is a sad idea that all the magic of the world slowly fades and the world becomes more and more profane, but it is also part of the beauty of the world. Absolutely, right? I think that's a big idea and a big theme in Tolkien's works. So, yeah, I mean, we have to enjoy the old days because everybody understands that, right? You look back 10 years, 20 years ago on your childhood or on your wherever, right? You look back in time and you have this nostalgia, even for things that you maybe didn't enjoy at the time. You're having a bad time of it, but then 10 years you look back on that bad time and you're like, oh, right in the feels. It's this nostalgia element, I think, that Tolkien plays about, so. That one Tolkienite says, what if everything Tolkien described in his works actually happened, but we're too dumb to understand or notice? Wouldn't that be crazy, right? Like, I mean, if you look back in our history, maybe there was like something how we wrote, right? A great flood happened or something. And then it's just like, Tolkien is like, that was Numenor. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you guys don't get it. Marie, I'm so sorry. I always destroy your name on my live streams. Marine Hubbard. It's good to see you. Is there a reason that Tolkien did not, why Tolkien did not name Thranduil as the Elven King in The Hobbit? I don't think he actually had invented that name yet. I think when he wrote The Hobbit, and he was in writing the Silmarillion, like he was kind of doing that as maybe his side project or whatever, as he did throughout most of his life. I don't think at the time he planned to even connect The Hobbit to the Silmarillion. So, and it was supposed to be like a children's story, so I don't think he wanted to go crazy with the Elvish literature, the Elvish language, those names, right? So I don't think he even had the name Thranduil during the time he wrote The Hobbit. But then The Lord of the Rings kind of connects in a lot of ways the Silmarillion and The Hobbit together because of some of the recalling of past ages. And then I think the Thranduil name came up. Oh, I don't butcher your name. I'm glad. Although in The Hobbit, he mentions Gondolin, right? He mentions how the weapons came from Gondolin, so maybe he was like, oh, I'm going to write that too. Maybe he did plan for them to be connected, but I just don't think he had the name yet. Frederick II of Prussia says, wasn't Huon initially a gift to Celegorm? I find it odd Huon just takes a liking to Lúthien during her captivity to defy its master. Yeah, he was originally a hunting dog of Orome, the huntsman of the Valar, and then he was given to Celegorm as a gift, as a hunter, because Celegorm and Orome used to hunt together. And then he sided with Lúthien because he saw her captured. He had pity and love for this, poor woman this poor elf maiden who was captured, and he wanted to help free her if he could. So, yeah, he was Celegorm's dog, but so I have a couple pictures. Somebody, let me see, who was it? Galen Stakov said, give us different pictures that you enjoy the most as background. So I have a couple here. Definitely more out there that I love. I'll keep trying to switch through. That's Rohan, Meduseld, Edoras. Jane Ingman asks, did Dane see, so I say Dane, but I correct myself because I think it's Dine. This might cause a huge conversation in the chat. I'm not sure, but people were kind of upset with how I said Oin as Owen or Owen. I'm trying to work with those dwarvish pronunciations, but let me know what you guys think. I've heard Dine because AI in the Legendarium apparently amounts to I sound. AI, same with AE, I believe. But anyway, Jane Engman says, did Dine see Durin's Bane at the gates of Moria, or did he just sense its presence? I like the idea that he saw it, because he was able to kind of look into Moria. He may have just seen the light of Durin's Bane, but I like to think he saw it, because he was like, we're never going to reclaim that. I see what was in there, so. See, yeah, that one Tolkienite says, and Oin, and Oin, Oin. O-Y-N, right? So, O-Y-N. But that's, I don't know, because if you look at I-N, it's oftentimes een, right? Because it's not, if it was Oin, right? O-I-N, that would be Durin the Deathless. But I don't think people say it. Like, people say Durin the Deathless. Durin, O. So it could be O-N, or O-E? Yeah, I don't know. O-Een. I guess it's just how do you take that I-N? I always used to say, Waystalker Carolean says, I always say Dane. because Battle for Middle-earth 2. That's what I always grew up saying. I always used to say Gloin, Oin, Dane. But then people in those comment sections, they're like, no, it's actually Dine, right? Like Dúnedain. It's not Dúnedain. Paul A says, I like the idea that there's no consistent pronunciation. It's like real languages. No, that's exactly right. I'm American, right? So a lot of these English words, it's so funny. A lot of these English words, I'll talk to my friends. I'll be like, okay, well, how do you say Quuay? It's like quay. No, apparently that's key. All right, well, how would you say Draught? I would say drought. That's actually draught. I don't know. Lyle L, thank you so much for the super chat. Why do you think the Valar searched for Sauron when they captured Melkor at the end of the First Era, seeing as he was one of his top lieutenants? Eonwë, the Herald of Manwë, actually saw Sauron, and he was like, and Sauron like cowered before him. Eonwë said, "Come west, come back with us, and repent before the Valar and await judgment." Sauron was like, "Okay, I'll do that." Eonwë walks away or whatever, and Sauron's like, "I'm not doing that. Like, I'm out of here. I'm scared." And then he goes and flees east. So to their knowledge, they should have just imprisoned Sauron, but they thought he was going to come back. Kyle Jordan Gaming. Sauron beta confirmed. Yeah. Hey, Harrison MacArthur. How's it going, man? Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Since there are a lot of new people than there were half an hour ago, I just want to kind of go through here. I wanted to thank our Valar tier patrons over on Patreon, Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. You guys make this possible. I really appreciate it. Later this week on Thursday or Friday, Royan and I, my friend, we're going to make another podcast. Over on Patreon, we have 23, 24, something like that, podcasts that we've done over these past couple of years. If you guys want some extra Men of the West entertainment, some extra Lord of the Rings discussions, please check those out. It's very free flow. It's very kind of like these live streams, but we also talk about the news. We also, over the year from 2018 through 2019, or a lot of both of those years, we did this month in Middle-earth, where we talked about like the major events that happened each month as they went by in Middle-earth. If you guys want to check those out, talk to me on Discord, all those kinds of things, please check out our Patreon. Just $1 a month should give you access to most of the benefits over there, because it really helps me as the channel and all that. So thank you guys. Friar Cipher. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Again, I was talking about how us Americans say things. Friar Cipher Ergsdrizzle? I'm so sorry. Do you personally play Lotro? Yes, I do. I absolutely love The Lord of the Rings Online. Oh yeah. Like I was saying before, it's one of my bigger inspirations for doing this channel. Speaking of which, let's... Ooh, do I have a Dwarvish? Yes, I do. Nice. There's some Dwarvish stuff. Let's see. Freyr Cipher Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil? Yggdrasil. I'm so sorry. Caesar E. Lopez says, bruh, I'm a patron member and totally forgot you guys do that. When is the next one? Next one's coming up at the end of this week. Feel free to send in our Discord server just things you would want us to talk about. We already have a lot of topics planned, so I might have to push it to next month, but cool. Let's see here. Phil Chadwick, well done on the channel. The great channel fella. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Years ago, this was all just a dream, but then I found some time and really just stuck with it. And I'm so glad I did. It's one of the best choices, one of the best honors in my whole life. So thank you guys all so much for making my dream a reality. I really appreciate that. Infernus Frost, what's the Discord link / code? It's on our Patreon. If you join, again, just like $1 a month, it should be one of the posts on there. You should be able to join in. So yeah, there you go. Like I was saying before, I want to keep this live stream very, very hopeful, right? So I'm going to try to read here another quote from the Legendarium. I do not know what is happening. The reason of my waking mind tells me that great evil has befallen, and we stand at the end of days. But my heart says nay, and all my limbs are light, and a hope and joy are come to me that no reason can deny. Éowyn, White Lady of Rohan, in this hour I do not believe that any darkness will endure. That's from Faramir and the Return of the King, the chapter The Steward and the King. Orange Lightning says, do you have a job outside of YouTube? I actually go to college, so this is the perfect college job, right? This is really the only one I do, but yeah, there's a lot going on in my life for sure, and this is also an escape for me, right? My channel helps me get into Middle Earth and really do some reading and some research and kind of, yeah, join in Middle Earth with you guys every week, so I appreciate it. Hugh Jedney, okay, see you later, Men of the West. Also have a safe and glorious day and be healthy. You too, my friend. You too. Judy Ludden says, have you ever listened to Clemavi de Profundis's Middle Earth music? I love it. Yeah, I listen to their stuff all the time. Guys, if you haven't checked them out, it's a super hard name to pronounce of their channel, but I'll try it again. Clemavi de Profundis. Check them out. They have some incredible Middle Earth music. I would personally recommend their Roads Go Ever Ever On. I've been listening to that a bunch recently. And Far Over the Misty Mountains Cold Extended Edition. I love those songs. All of it's great, but those two especially. Their Last Goodbye cover is also really good. Would you guys also... So I have kind of a background in some music. Would you guys like me to try to make covers of certain Lord of the Rings songs? I've got my friend Gallify. He makes a bunch of the music you guys hear in my videos every week. We're trying to get more songs coming soon, right? It's for the music channel and all that. Hopefully we can post some new songs in the next couple weeks here to our music channel. But yeah, would you guys like if we kind of collabed, him and I, and tried to make some covers of things? I'm seeing a lot of yeses and sures. Maybe I'll do that for a special sometime, a special mark, subscriber mark for the channel. Hugh. Okay. British name. Just call me Hugh. Okay. All right, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Thank you, guys. Frederick II of Fresha says, yes, if you're like Dairon, especially. It said he's the best minstrel in Middle Earth, so I'm not sure if I'm that good, but I'll give it a shot. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the support here. Thorondor, we have a music channel, just music from Men of the West, I believe, or music of Men of the West. I just have posted some of the songs that I've used in some of my videos there. Hopefully we should have more coming here soon. Armand Rampersad says, yes, after you were singing in the previous live streams, definitely. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm glad to hear it, because part of me was like, putting my voice out there with things like, the song In Dreams from The Fellowship of the Ring, or May It Be, or, right, I love Peter Hollins. Also, if you guys want to check out Peter Hollins' Middle Earth music, it's super inspirational for me. So, yeah, I'd love to make a cover of like In Dreams or something like that, or one of Tolkien's poems, or yeah. Yeah, a bit about me. I used to do a lot of choir and theater, so Peter Hollins has always been very inspirational for me. Rufus107 James says, say my name. There you go. Sam Popkin always wondered what Finrod's harp song would sound like that he played to Beor. Same. Ah, man, it'd be so beautiful, right? Because it's Elvish. It's the Elder Days. Oh, Maureen Hubbard. I've been doing choir for 6 or 7 years now. Awesome. Keep it up. I haven't really been able to do much since I've been, just I haven't really been able to do much recently. So I want to get back into that at some point, And especially, again, just making music even. Just doing covers of songs like Lord of the Rings and all that. So there you go. Yeah, I want to be able to do that. Frey, yeah, you told me to call you Frey earlier. The kinslaying was justified. Don't at me. No, it wasn't. I know that's like, those are like a bunch of memes, right? That it's like, oh man, Fëanor was justified and kinslaying. No, they weren't. They totally weren't. Because like, Fëanor killed a different kind of elf. He killed like wood elves, like the Sindar, right? He killed these ocean elves. Okay. We'll talk about all 3 kinslayings. The first one, not justified. He was stealing their boats. They didn't want to give him boats, and honestly, they wanted to be like, Fëanor, just calm down. Think about what you're doing. You're about to give up the land of the Valar forever. And there he was like, nah, I'm going to kill you and take your boats. Not justified. Second kinslaying. In Doriath, sure, that they had like the Silmaril from Beren and Lúthien, but that's the thing. I've never seen the 7 sons of Fëanor try to steal one of the Silmarils back from Morgoth. Beren actually did, Lúthien actually did. So they, honestly, in my opinion, they don't even have the right to try to claim the Nauglamir after all that. So second kinslaying, not justified. Third kinslaying, definitely not justified. They pretty much killed a bunch of women and children at the havens of Sirion. So nah, nah, man. Again, trying to get back that Silmaril. No, just, I'm not with it. Harrison MacArthur says, Yoiston, Gondor versus Rohan, who would win? Depends on where they would fight and when they would fight. So, assuming they weren't fighting external forces, Rohan was at its full strength, Gondor was at its full strength. If Gondor was fighting in the open field, if they were fighting each other in the open field, Rohan would have a landslide victory because they're all about cavalry, they're all about landscape fighting. But if Gondor was besieged by Rohan, if they were trying to besiege Minas Tirith, Gondor would win that. And if Gondor was trying to besiege Edoras or Helm's Deep, Gondor would also win that. So it's really depending on where it would fight, I think. Andrew Labachir says, the series is suspended due to COVID, but not canceled. A hiatus before starting season 2 is announced months ago. Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. I mean, their original plan was to get season 1, or at least the first episode or 2 of season 1 out by the end of 2021. But we'll see. This coronavirus has been crazy. And that's... So, people have suggested to me that I do a video around this time period on the Black Death. Or, wait, is that the real one? Wait, the Mordor Plague. Hold on, let me see what the plague is. Oh, okay, just the Great Plague, the Dark Plague. But I actually don't want to do that video right now. Once this whole everything passes that we're going through as the world community, after all that passes, then I can make a video on the Great Plague. But I'm not going to be an opportunist about these darker times and about a plague that, like about a virus. I'm not going to. So. But eventually I can make I just don't want to be that kind of YouTuber, Oh, a virus is happening. Well, you guys want to check out my video on the Great Plague? Nah, it's like, that's dark, right? It's not a hopeful opportunist, right? Right now with my live stream, this was actually suggested to me by a patron on my Discord. And now this is, I feel like, a bit opportunist, but in a good way. We're all looking for some escape. I know I am. I'm just kind of been isolated and quarantined and stuff. I've been able to see some people, like friends and family, but this was good for me too. This is the good kind of opportunist, right? Where we can all kind of come together as we're sitting at home and talk some Lord of the Rings, talk some Middle Earth. But that would be that's too far. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm glad you agree with me. I don't want to take advantage of a bad situation. Sure, it might get like views and stuff, but this isn't about the money. Thomas Tyler, will Durin be reborn and reclaim Moria? Yeah, actually, yeah. So in the Fourth Age, Durin the Seventh would be the seventh and I think final reincarnation of Durin, and he retook Moria, even as Durin the Sixth was the one to lose Moria in the Third Age. So. I'm gonna destroy your name. I'm so sorry. Ogami Jigoku 13. There are a lot of countermeasures to cavalry. Honestly, cavalry works best in exploiting the openings that your infantry force gives the cavalry during the fighting. That's a good point. And I mean, Gondor is a pretty mixed and diverse military. You have the Tower Guard, these kind of spearmen. You have the infantry soldiers. You have hunters from South Gondor, or a bunch of like bowmen there. You have the Knights of Dol Amroth. Maybe they would do better than Rohan in the open field as well. That's a good point. Noctis 3212 says, what is your favorite moment in all 6 films? Big fan. Oh man, I think the Ride of the Rohirrim or Aragorn's speech at the Black Gate and the For Frodo kind of thing. I'm split between those. There are so many good ones. It really depends on like what mood you're in. I'm sure a lot of you understand that as well. It's like if I'm kind of in a reflective or lethargic kind of mood, I'm not going to watch something super epic. I'm going to watch like Pippin and Gandalf talking about death, right? Or Sam talking to Frodo about strawberries in the Shire as they're sitting on Mount Doom. That one Tolkienite for Frodo. You can do it, Aragorn. I love that meme. Members only. Are elves the only immortals in Tolkien's works? That's a great question. They're not, actually. You have Iru Ilúvatar, immortal. You have the Valar and the Maiar. So like Gandalf, Sauron, Morgoth, all these people, they're immortal as well. But it's funny, immortality and mortality are kind of interesting in this broad scheme of Tolkien's works, because men, in a sense, are actually immortal because they die and go to the halls of Mandos before leaving the world, the rings of the world forever. But that doesn't mean that they're done, right? They go on to the halls of Ilúvatar and I think live with God in heaven, kind of. That's the kind of deal for men. So it's not like they're... Again, it depends on how you look at immortality, I suppose. Do you guys need me to turn up the volume? Abdili Saria says, turn up the volume, sir. If you guys need me to, I can turn up. I'm starting to lose my voice here, so I think I can probably go another half hour before I have to kind of start wrapping things up. Oh my gosh, this chat's awesome. Thank you guys all so much for being here and for joining me today. Yeah, turn it up? Okay, I'll let me see. Okay, is that better? I'm seeing some volume is fine. It's low-ish. Volume is fine. Is this better, or do you need me to turn it up even more? Okay, perfect. So continuing with our theme of hopeful moments from the Legendarium, I want to... Let's see. I think I have a couple more. Yeah, this is the quote that part of the quote that I posted earlier on the community tab. Far above the Ethel Duoth in the west, the night sky was still dim and pale. There, peeping among the cloud wrack, above a dark tor high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart, and he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that, in the end, the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was light and a high beauty forever beyond its reach. His song in the tower had been defiance rather than hope, for then he was thinking of himself. Now, for a moment, his own fate, and even his master's, ceased to trouble him. He crawled back into the brambles and laid himself by Frodo's side, and putting away all fear, he cast himself into a deep, untroubled sleep. That's Sam Gamgee from The Return of the King and the chapter The Land of Shadow. Somebody, wait, Waystalker Carolian? Well, now I have to turn my volume down. Sheesh. Sorry. Saberspark, thank you so much. Love your channel. Keep up the good work. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I see you're a YouTuber as well. I'm not familiar with your channel, but keep up your work as well. I'm sure you do a great job. I wanted to thank our Valar tier patrons again. I can't say how thankful. I can't say enough how thankful I am for them. Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. I appreciate your patronage. And I want to mention, again, we're going to have an upcoming podcast on Patreon later this week. And, okay, so I talked about this earlier. I need a video idea for tomorrow, or for next week, for our April Fool's Day video. So I've gotten one from like the beginning of this chat that was like, what if Bill the Pony got the One Ring? And I'm totally down to make that video. Do you guys want to see a what if Bill the Pony got the One Ring? It would be so fun. But yeah, just let me know what thoughts you guys have there. Kate Hines, yes. Will Atkinson, no. Killer, yes. The one with Bill the Pony. Just let me know if you guys have any other suggestions, but I think that would be hilarious. Oh, man. Thanks to whoever at the beginning of the chat. Let me see if I can find him. No. Thanks to whoever shouted that out. Yeah, all right, I think that's our video. When, what if Bill the Pony got the One Ring? Brent Fraley. I think there was more to that pony than met the eye. That's awesome. That's a good question. The Tau of Ken. How would Bill the Pony even put the ring on? Would it wrap around its hoof? Yeah, actually, the ring can adjust sizes, so you can put the ring on there. I'm so excited. This is gonna be a fun video to make. Oh man, because like, what if they chose him as the ring bearer? Okay, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm starting to think of like how I'm gonna do that theory. His one weakness, mines. Kyle Jordan Gaming. You're right. He's got to remember that. Armin Ramper said, what if they actually walked into Mordor? I actually made that video last year for April Fool's Day. What if... yeah, right? What if they walked into Mordor? I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy one. Orange Lightning, thank you so much. Trans Ponies, Maya in disguise. Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Marine Hubbard, are there any other YouTubers who inspire you to continue your channel? Yeah, actually, a couple of them, right? So I've always said Red Team Review, Preston Jacobs, they're Game of Thrones YouTubers. They have inspired me since before I started mine. I've been watching them for years. Their Star Wars Theory, I absolutely I really look up to Star Wars Theory. He's a great guy, and makes great content. So yeah, he inspires me. The other Lord of the Rings channels, they inspire me as well. Let me go ahead and shout them out by name here. Okay, so if we go to my channel tab, so we have my music channel. Again, hopefully more songs will be coming on my music channel soon, and maybe for a 300,000 subscriber or something video, we can make some music. I'll try to figure out a time to make a song like you guys were asking for. But so I wanted to shout out Geek Zone, The Philosopher's Games, Everything in Middle-earth, History of Middle-earth, Nerd of the Rings. Nerd of the Rings was here earlier with us. Tolkien Lore, Hello Future Me, In Deep Geek, Lore of Middle-earth. They are all Middle-earth channels, or at least make Middle-earth content. You know, so yeah, there you go. Please give them all a look. But yeah, Red Team Review, Preston Jacobs, all those guys, they're really quite incredible. I'm losing my voice. Let's see. Tactical Droid. We live in sad times, my friends. Well, as Tolkien shows us, we don't choose the times that we live in, you know? It's all we can do to face the hand that we're kind of dealt, you know? We have to push forward, right? And do what we will with the time that is given us. Again, like I've been saying this whole time, I've been trying to kind of keep this live stream light and hopeful and happy. So yeah, thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate you all. Oh no. Okay, I'm not losing my voice because of the virus. Don't think that. Oh, and Caesar E. Lopez, he says, bruh, you named off 6 channels that I already donate to, though I'm not sure if I can complete my donations for next month. That's another thing. So I have been promoting my Patreon and everything like that, but please look after yourselves first. Don't donate to me if you need the money. If your family, your home needs the money, do not, please, like that. It would mean more to me if you kept your money and made sure you were safe, make sure your family's doing okay, your friends are okay. Again, this has never been about the money for me, right? And there'll always be a time to join my Patreon or, you know, later, or support the channel later. But just like we live in interesting times and very kind of trying, difficult times. So keep your money if you need it, right? And if and everything like that, right? I'm not trying to rob you. I'm trying to help you. So, yeah. Thorondor, can I send you actual rolls of toilet paper? It'd probably get confiscated through like UPS or something. They'd be like, "This is mine." No, just kidding. All love to UPS. Let's see. My GV Santa says my first name is Oh my gosh, Genevieve. GV. I'm sorry. I probably just destroyed your name. Southeastern Kaju, thank you so much for this super chat donation. I appreciate that. Great to catch your live stream. First time for me. Thanks for your good works. I appreciate that so much, man. I appreciate it. Galen Stakov says, you're never going to stop doing that, right? I'm too invested. Stop doing what? My channel or the Patreon? That is an interesting thing, because not all things can last, right? And that is something we see in Tolkien's works, right? Eventually there will come a time, maybe when I have kids or whatever it is, that my channel really has to take a back seat, or that I have to stop uploading as much, or whatever it is. But that time is far off. Right, and really there is so much to cover. I have a huge list on my phone of like ideas that I can just scroll through, and many of them I haven't even made yet. So don't worry, you've got like we've got a lot of time together. But just like with any channel, just like with everything, I mean, there will come a time when I think my videos will run out of juice, maybe, or I kind of run out of ideas, or I've covered everything that I want to cover in Tolkien's works. But again, that time is very, very far off. Never, you know, and hopefully my videos are always, they always say, right, when it's on the internet, it's there forever. So I hope that is the case for the videos, even if it's on different platforms, even if they're not as like, I hope they're always on the internet for people to enjoy. So. Mr. E says, anyone here own the United Cutlery swords and weapons from Lord of the Rings? All I got is Andúril. I have Andúril. I have, well, I don't know how much of it is United Cutlery, but I have a lot of replicas like Legolas's knives, Gimli's battle axe, Orcrist, Glamdring, Boromir's sword, Éowyn's sword, what else? Strider's Ranger's sword, Sting. That might be it. Gandalf's staff. I have that. Honestly, my family has a huge collection of just like everything, right? So my dad and I, we have a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff. So that Gandalf staff is more his. Radic Himmer, I'm from the West, part of the U.S., right? Kind of mountain range. That part, that's as specific as I want to get, but. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining me. I've run out of water on my desk, which means we'll give it another 18 minutes or so. Oh, goodness. Sorry for the motorcycle. We'll give it another 18 minutes or so before I kind of wrap things up. I ran out of water. My voice is starting to go. It's hard talking for 2 hours straight. But man, I absolutely love these live streams, right? They are always so much fun. Let me change the picture here. Minas Tirith. Frederick II of Prussia, do you have a favorite dark fantasy work that isn't Children of Hurin? Well, I would say Game of Thrones. So that's pretty dark. Well, A Song of Ice and Fire. So that's pretty dark, but I do enjoy it. Thank you to everybody saying Varoom or Vroom Vroom. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Nikita Zazoran says, in the Lord of the Rings Online, what place has your favorite music? I'd say the Shire. I love the Shire music, but also the Westminster, the Rohan, right? The Kingstead. There's a song, Almost Home, from the Helm's Deep soundtrack. Love it. Dol Amroth's music. Oh, I love that too. It's all really good, but I'd say primarily, probably the Shire's my favorite, and then Rohan. Thorondor, water supplies ran out 3 months ago. No medical supplies. My respiratory systems are failing. This may be the end. You sound like the dwarves from Moria. Drums in the deep. Corona in the deep. No, I hope you're, on a serious note, I hope you are doing okay. I hope you're just memeing us. Paladin Pony T says, have you ever made a story of yourself in Lord of the Rings? If you have, then what are you and what do you do? I actually have, with my Lord of the Rings Online characters, I have a bunch of backstories. I think I have a document with all my backstories on it. I have like 25,000 words worth of backstory for my characters, which in some form are all kind of like me, you know, but mostly I'm Yoiston, Captain, Rohan, right? But goes to Arnor to become a ranger, travels south to Gondor to aid the Fellowship and all that stuff, right? Like you do in the Lord of the Rings Online. That's the most I, try to and personally that I identify with. So, okay, Thorondor, that was a meme of you running out of water. I'm quite fine. Oh, of me running? Yeah, no, for real. I'm quite fine right here. Good to hear it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to drink a lot of water after this. Yeah, filthy. Yeah, almost at 25,000. I'm at like 24,500, something like that. Like one more story, one more backstory, and we're there. I love it. Paul A, have you played the Minecraft Lord of the Rings mod? Yes, I have. I love the Lord of the Rings Minecraft mod. If you guys are into Minecraft and stuff, check out. People have put together for years, right? A bunch of Middle Earth. It's not complete yet, right? Like if you go to some places, at least when I was back on it, like last summer, if you go to Erebor and stuff, it's not quite finished. But they've made so many great and grand places, and it's like to the scale of Middle Earth from as far as I can tell. Like it's huge. It's freaking huge. Kyle Jordan Gaming, Blind Guardian has that whole Lord of the Rings album. Yeah, the Silmarillion. They're what's the album called? Nightfall and Middle Earth. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Thorondor, dude, I fantasize about being an eagle riding human Maya with a particular hatred for dragons. Nice, I love it. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat here. You guys are awesome. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm glad we could all kind of come together during these difficult times and talk some Middle Earth, talk some Lord of the Rings, just kind of hang out. Maybe what I'll do is release for like some special, right? I'll release that song, that cover that I'll eventually make, and then do another live stream maybe around 300,000. Or I always do one at the beginning of the summer. So at the least, we'll do another live stream in about 2 months from now. Astro Viking 2, Men of the West. Dude, when can we expect a video about Glorfindel? So I actually created one about 3 years ago. I'm going to remake that one because I think there's a lot more that could be added, and I think the quality's not quite up to par and all that stuff, but I made a Glorfindel video about 3 years ago. I'm gonna remake that one hopefully this year. That's one of the next ones that I do want to remake. So, oh my goodness, Stephen Smith. Western Mountains, the Pelori. You're a Maya. Maybe I am. No, thank you so much. I'm more like, I don't know, like the men of the. I've thought about this actually. Like, either I'm like the hobbits based on their geographic location, or I'm like the Vales of the Anduin, like the Bjornings and the woodsmen of Rovanion. Honestly, that tells you quite a bit of the geography of kind of where I'm roughly at, but I will say no more than that. But yeah. Marine Hubbard, if there was one character from Lord of the Rings who you could meet, who would it be? I think Aragorn. I think that would be probably the most inspiring person to meet. That would be so awesome. Oh goodness, tactical droid. I like how Americans are basically gods in Tolkien's works. Please do not compare us to the Valar. America is not like Valinor. Yeah, we're not like them. but that's funny. I get what you mean by geography. Let's see. Be a man of Brethil if it was Beleriand. I like that. Man of Brethil. Yeah, because if I was like a man of Dorloman, I'd get killed. Probably a man of Brethil's a safe bet. I like that. Yeah, I gotta think about that. If I was a man of Beleriand, who would I? Maybe Dorloman, but again, Easterlings go there. I don't know. Well, some people are guessing, guessing where I'm living. I'm not going to confirm or deny any of it, but it's funny. Analyze the accent. Oh no, they're trying to figure me out. They're trying to figure me out. Paladin Pony T says, "Do you have any of the Middle Earth weapons in LARP form?" No, but that'd be sweet, honestly. No, they're all like false edged metal, like blades. Let's see. As we're coming up here, like in our last 10 minutes, I'm gonna end at the top of the hour here. I wanted to shout out my Valar tier patrons once again. Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. Thank you guys so much. Your patronage really helps out the channel. On Patreon, later this week, we have an upcoming podcast. And next week, we'll be doing a video on... Bill the Pony. What if Bill the Pony got the One Ring? So that should be fun. Hopefully that'll be... that'll be a good one. I'll try to make it as fun and as funny as I can here. And then I'll end us out with another hopeful quote, but I'll do that in a little bit here. Tom CH says, "No, don't end yet. We need more." I'm sorry, my voice is it's going. If you compare it to an hour and a half ago. Yeah. Ooh, Armin Rampersad says he's on the eastern side of the mountain range as he's compared himself to the Bjornings. Neither confirm nor deny. That's fun. Do you guys have any last questions here that we could talk about in these final minutes? I feel like every live stream, at least in a part of it, like people are trying to guess, like, who are you? It's funny. Oh no. Kazar Brooks. Yes, find that make of motorcycle brand and find out where it was sold. They're trying to rat me out by my neighbors' motorcycles. Oh my goodness. Alice KH says, "Is it true that Tolkien found inspiration for his work in Norse mythology?" Absolutely. There's a bunch of different mythologies for sure, but if you look at, for instance, Ragnarok, everybody being revived to fight one last battle. You look at Daggeroth, everybody being revived to fight one last battle. It's very similar in a lot of ways, but I think he has a bunch of inspirations. Irenian Gilgalad, when you do videos, can we be sure that all of your pronunciations of names and places are accurate? Somewhat. I would say be like, when I pronounce something, maybe 70-75% sure that that's probably right. But I'd say there's like a 25-30% chance that a pronunciation is wrong. If you go back and look at some of my old videos, like how I learned recently that when I said Rovanian a lot, but it's actually Rovanian. Like if you actually look at how it's really spelled and look at everything particularly. So there's a bunch of that. If you go back into some of my old videos, it's like, oh, that's different. He pronounces that different now. Over time, I hope to, just get better at everything. Is the motorcycle of Dwarven make that one Tolkienite? Yes. Okay. How did you know? Was it the guy yelling Baru Kasad on it? That'd be awesome. I mean, if there was I feel like either Sauron would be the first one to invent a motorcycle or a dwarf. The Black Prince. So will the Bill the Pony theory be out for April Fool's? It'll be out, yeah, next Sunday for April Fool's week. Marine Hubbard, what book do you think is better, The Hobbit or Silmarillion? I'd go Silmarillion all the way. It's funny that you should ask that, because like after I finished reading the Silmarillion a couple months ago, I probably would have said Silmarillion. But then I read The Hobbit right after, and I'm like, oh wait, this is really, really good too. Because I remember The Hobbit like always being good, but then I read it and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. So I'm actually, it really depends on your mood, right? If you're going deep lore, if you're going really harder, more difficult stuff, but there's a lot more of it, Silmarillion. If you're going kind of like for a simple journey from A to B, from B to C, with characters that you can really understand and really empathize with, see yourself in more. It's really hard to see yourself in a ton of the characters in Silmarillion. There are some, Beren, Turin, Hurin, Tur, right, Lúthien. But like you can see yourself in some of these characters, but it's really hard with some others. So really, it's like what mood you're in. Andrew Labat, oh my gosh, Andrew, I'm not gonna destroy your last name. I'm sorry. Have a good one. It was good talking with you. Thorondor, he is in the Silmarillion. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I'm just going to scroll up here. Thorondor, dude, Dwarvish Loud Rider Chopper would be incredible. Marine Hubbard, do you think it is a little silly that The Hobbit was made into 3 movies? Yeah, I was thinking about that constantly as I was reading through The Hobbit too. I think 2 Lord of the Rings sized movies, right? So like 3 hours, something like that, would have been perfect for The Hobbit. 2 of those. Because the Hobbit movies, I think, are a little bit shorter, each of them, than the Lord of the Rings. I would say go that full Lord of the Rings length, but 2 of them. Have one arc where you get to maybe go all the way to the dwarves getting captured in Mirkwood, kind of leave us on a cliffhanger, and then with the first, right, from Bag End to that. Then the second is Bilbo becoming a hero, saving the dwarves from the spiders and from Thranduil's halls. And then go from that all the way through the end of the story. I think that would have been great. Hashim Farhad, can you please do the what if Balerion survived theory video? Absolutely. Again, like I said, I think on that poll, I plan to make all those theory videos at some point. I love those, all those topics. So, are you planning to do a what if video on the 3 Elven Rings? Like if they never lost their powers? That's interesting. What if the elves stayed, survived, and what if their rings stayed and survived? That's an interesting suggestion. I could maybe do that at some point. Let's see. End on the... Oh, wait. I actually have my end screen here. All right, guys, we're coming into the final minutes. My voice can only last so much longer. And I can get some water. Oh yeah, I love both those Shire pictures for sure. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Right, it's always so nice to interact with you all on the live stream, all the time. It's really fun. No, not the end screen. That one Tolkien. Yeah, we've come to it at last. Noel, Kieran's, thank you so much. I'm gonna rest up that voice. Gonna miss you guys too. That was fun. There's gonna be no extra video today or anything. This is it for today. But we'll catch up with that that Bill the Pony theory video next week. I'm so excited. That's gonna be so much fun. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end. One more shout out to my Valor tier patrons: Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Peter Sheppard, Kyle Wetzel, and Lane Grimes. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Really means a lot to myself, to Royan, to everyone that works with the channel. And we're having an upcoming podcast this week. So if you guys like what you saw here, right, with just kind of us talking, us looking at Middle-earth through a more podcasty kind of style, please check out our Western S podcast over on Patreon. Just $1 a month. You can join us there on Discord, on Patreon, and you can watch our podcasts, talk to me directly. So thank you guys. And in finishing with our hopeful live stream, in these times of kind of more darkness and stuff, I wanted to end with a quote from The Hobbit. So, "This is a bitter adventure, if it must end so, and not a mountain of gold can amend it. Yet I am glad that I have shared in your perils. That has been more than any Baggins deserves." "No," said Thorin, "there is more in you of good than you know, child of the kindly West. Some courage and some wisdom, blended in measure. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. But sad or merry, I must leave it now. Farewell." And that's Bilbo and Thorin from The Hobbit, the chapter The Return Journey. So I hope these quotes have been helpful. I hope this live stream has been helpful, kind of giving more hope. I appreciate you all so much. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my great friends.